In their arrogance, S.H.I.E.L.D. took a cosmic cube, a thing of unlimited power, able to shape reality with a simple thought. It became sentient, and they were able to convince it to work with them. And what did they do? They built a prison. Because they are meager and small. Because it is all they know. And in their foolishness, in their stupidity, they never asked the right questions like, where did this cube come from? And just who is its rightful owner? Years ago, the Red Skull once had this cube, but in a battle, Steve Rogers was able to shatter it. S.H.I.E.L.D. took the pieces to study these remnants. That did not end well. They were not worthy of its power. Luckily, it was not all in vain. Something beautiful was born. This young child named Kovic was new to the world, but her power was insurmountable. S.H.I.E.L.D. recruited Dr. Selvig to talk with her and better understand the young girl. Meanwhile, the Red Skull is bored. Having Charles Xavier's powers meant he was no longer challenged by anything. Everyone just does what he says. But it isn't the same as conquering a people. When they bow, he wants them to mean it. And his daughter Sin only comes to him with more of the same. A mind-controlled army, green and yellow leotards, doomsday machines, infiltration. It's all so uninspired. It's all been done before. The Red Skull wants something new, something convoluted, a challenge, something that will break his enemies once and for all. Suddenly, a guest appears in the form of a young girl. Alarmed, the Red Skull orders his man to kill the intruder, not caring about her young age. She is unharmed by the attack, so Sin steps in, only for the child to notice her facial disfiguration and instantly restore it. The young girl is as confused by this as the villains are. Everyone's yelling at her, but she thought the Red Skull would be nice. He used to be nice. When they were little, they made a whole world together. He held her in his arms. But then there was a fight, and she was broken. The Red Skull realizes this little girl is the Cosmic Cube, his Cosmic Cube. She mentions that these weird S.H.I.E.L.D. people are talking to her and trying to be her friend, even though she accidentally hurt them. Kovic isn't really comfortable with that, and wants to be the Red Skull's friend instead. And the man was all too happy to oblige. With this new ally, the Red Skull knew he would have his victory. Providing both a line into S.H.I.E.L.D. and unlimited power, Kovic would be the key to all of this. A hacker may have exposed S.H.I.E.L.D.'s lies and slowed down his plans, but his enemies were also humbled while Steve was torn apart from his closest ally. While all this happened, the Red Skull bonded with the sentient cube, teaching her of a Hydra that brought happiness and peace to the world. One day, Kovic mentioned she didn't understand the people at S.H.I.E.L.D. If they want to make the world a better place, they should just join Hydra. Kovic also mentioned she's been doing a really good job at keeping the Red Skull and Hydra a secret from S.H.I.E.L.D. After all, she doesn't want to ruin the big surprise party. But she does mention that Dr. Selvig was onto her, so she had to make some changes. The Red Skull was shocked at these words, but Kovic reassured him that everything was fine, and teleported them both to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. There, Dr. Selvig was shocked at their appearance, and got on his knees. It was a true honor for him to finally meet the Supreme Leader. Trying to make sense of this madness, the Red Skull looked into the man's mind, and saw something incredible. Memories he couldn't have of a life he couldn't have lived. A life within the Hydra of Kovic's stories. And there it was. This is how they would all fall. The Red Skull ordered Selvig to develop the concept of Pleasant Hill within S.H.I.E.L.D. Naturally, such a perverted and insane idea would be heartily approved at the highest of levels. From there, it was easy to manipulate Zemo into staging a coup within the prison. The villain captured Steve and Maria Hill, and attempted to topple S.H.I.E.L.D., at least for a time. The Red Skull then infiltrated the prison himself, posing as a priest, and using his telepathic abilities to let Zemo lead Steve and Maria to Selvig. They deliberately tricked Steve into running off, only for him to end up confronting Crossbones. From there, knowing that Kovic likes Steve, the Red Skull knew she would do anything to save him. She would remake him into the hero he once was, but different like Selvig. she would make him Hydra. This is how the Red Skull broke Steve Rogers. This is how he finally wins. He always knew Cap would be the pinnacle of man were it not for his corrupted soul. But now, together, these two will do wondrous things. They will lead an army. They will inherit the Earth. They will kill Steve's old friends. They will turn everything the man has fought for into a pile of ash. And then, Steve will kneel before the Red Skull and utter the words, "Hail Hydra." Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and this is my recap and review of Captain America Steve Rogers #2. Wow, this was completely unsurprising. You can go back to my review of the first issue where I predicted exactly this coming, but hey, in spite of that, this was still a pretty great comic. But there's no time to talk about that, let's move on to internet arguments. Just so we're all on the same page, comics are written well in advance of publication. So all those smug people out there thinking this was Marvel or writer Nick Spencer's way of walking back the whole Hail Hydra incident, you're wrong. This was always the plan, and they've been hinting at it for quite some time now. These people, who I am reluctant to call critics, were just simply wrong. They clearly didn't know much about comic books, everyone jumped to conclusions they shouldn't have, and made a huge big deal out of nothing. For those who cried wolf, who are a little more self-aware about how silly this whole thing is, it's really funny to see their cognitive dissonance right now. People are desperately trying to cover up their own folly with stuff like, oh, this was just a big publicity stunt, or oh, this is all Nick Spencer's fault, or whatever else they can do to avoid admitting they were wrong, right? But the fact of the matter is, this is a pretty well-written, well-drawn comic. Yes, the hero turning bad isn't anything new, and Marvel has been relying on this plot a little heavily these days, but honestly, this sort of thing has been going on for ages, and there's nothing really wrong with it. If anything, this is exactly the sort of back-to-basics formula that for ages I and many other fans have been clamoring for. There isn't some unnecessarily complicated personal drama, angst-ridden brooding, or any other nonsense. It's just heroes triumphing over adversity. In this case, that adversity being their own corruption. But this is likely to play out the way all the other stories do. We'll see Cap being evil, working for Hydra, and then coming into conflict because of it, only for him to probably be returned to normal and kicking the Red Skull's ass 3 ways to Sunday. Well, maybe. The fact that we're getting these revelations in issue 2, coupled with certain comments by editor-in-chief Axel Alonso and Nick Spencer, really makes me think this is only the tip of the iceberg. Remember that as far as Marvel is concerned, they already very much have a perfectly good Captain America, and I agree. Sam Wilson has and can carry the banner just fine on his own. So I wouldn't just write off this story. Pretty much anything can happen here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. Yes, this was probably done just to sell comics, but I don't understand why people think that's a valid criticism. That's kind of the point of the business to begin with, no? I think what it really comes down to is that some people are miserable for the sake of being miserable. That's not to say that if you didn't like this comic you're a cynical jerk. No, you cannot like this comic and be a valid person, but some people are only ever going to see what they're looking for. Misery is all you'll get from life if that's all you're looking for. The bottom line comes down to this. In spite of all the bullshit about anti-Semitism and whatever, I had fun reading this in issue 1 of the series. And you probably will too, especially if you read the Pleasant Hill story, which this comic really has some cool revelations about. But really, even if you haven't, if you just sit back and enjoy the ride, it's a neat issue that sets up a lot and has some really great moments. And now that we have an explanation that makes sense for the major revelation last issue, I just can't wait to see what happens next. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.